Hey everybody, welcome to the Sky This Month for January of 2025. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I know the last few days, last week has been very cold, so I don't imagine many of you have been out so far this year. But nonetheless, January, this new year, new month, offers us plenty to see as amateur astronomers. So as usual, I will do my night sky tour using the Stellarium app. But first, let's just go through and see a few photos submitted by the membership. So first off here we have from Chris White, photo of the winter hexagon, which was taken by Chris around 2:30 in the morning on Christmas Eve. And Chris took this from his place, and it's looking to the west, as he says, over a stupid street light. And I think we all know the pain of living in an urban center as an amateur astronomer with all the light pollution. But nonetheless, we have this photo here that he sent of the winter hexagon. And of course, that is the stars Sirius, Rigel, Procyon, Aldebaran, Castor and Pollux, and Capella in the winter sky. And right over here, right above the house, you see Jupiter as well. Nice photo from Chris. And on the same night, he also took this photo here of Leo and Mars. Mars passing through Leo right here in the center, obviously. And over here on the left side of the photo, you can see the mane or the sickle of Leo, the front of the constellation, the head of the lion. So, wonderful photos. Now, some more photos here from different Chris Jaban. We have this photo of M46 and NGC 2438. And let's see here. Photos were from December, so this photo was taken by Chris. It is a 1-hour integration time using a UV and IR cut filter and a ZWO ASI 294MC Pro camera on his Celestron Nexstar 6 SE. And obviously, as you can tell, we have M46, the cluster right here and all of its stars, and right there is NGC 2438, little planetary nebula, visible right through the cluster. Wonderful image from Chris. And this one here, the second image that he submitted from December as well, is the Monkey Head Nebula. That is SH2252. And it was imaged with a dual band HAA03 filter and on his Celestron Nexstar 6 SE using the same setup as well, the same camera setup. And that was 3 hours worth of integration time. A wonderful photo of this emission nebula here, and you can see the nice deep reds in the dust lanes. Another great submission from Chris. Thank you for the images. Now, of course, we can't just have Chris's submit images for the Sky This Month presentation. If you have any photos or any sketches or anything that you'd like to share, of course, send it along to me at observing@amateurastronomy.org, and I'll be happy to take a look at them and share them during my Sky This Month presentation. So now, let's move on to Stellarium and take a look at the night sky from now until the next meeting. So here we are. I have the night sky set for Hamilton on the 13th of... why is it on the 13th? 1 second. On the 10th of January 2025. So meeting night tonight around 9 p.m. So 9 p.m. just before you'll be getting out of the meeting here. So as I do each month, we'll start here looking over into the west. And as you can see, our fall constellations I spoke about a couple months ago are now setting down below the western horizon. Pegasus and Pisces and Lacerta, Andromeda and Triangulum. So it's really your last chance to take a look at any objects you may want to see in these constellations until they come about later in the year. Looking up towards zenith, we have Perseus right above us in the sky. And then some of the winter constellations almost up there at zenith. You got Taurus and Auriga and Gemini. Of course, tonight we got the moon up there right next to Jupiter, right in Auriga here in Taurus. And then looking down towards the southern and the eastern sky, we have all of the winter objects in the famous winter constellations here. You have your winter triangle, Procyon, Sirius, and Betelgeuse here. And then, of course, as was seen in Chris's photo, Sirius, Rigel, Aldebaran, Capella, Castor and Pollux, and Procyon down here form the large winter hexagon, and right inside that hexagon are all the winter Messier and NGC objects. And of course, these constellations at this time of year will be up for most of the night, coming from east and fairly high, about halfway up in the sky in the south, so plenty of time to see everything that you want to see in those constellations. January, right in the middle of winter, is the month for looking at the winter Milky Way and the winter Messier and NGC objects. So the moon for January, we tonight on the 10th have a nearly full moon. Full moon is on the 13th, so that means unfortunately this past week, this weekend, the next week or so, your sky is going to be washed out by a nice high full moon. But then we come to last quarter moon on the 21st and moving towards new moon on the 29th of the month. So that last weekend, especially last 2 weekends and the last week, will be your best shot to get some clear, dark, moonless skies. And just going into February as well, before our next meeting, we come to full moon on the night of the 12th. That is a Wednesday, so the Wednesday of the meeting week is a full moon again. So like I said, the last weekend and the last week of the month, your best opportunity to make sure you're not washed out by a nice big bright moon. So we'll go through all of the planets, of course, starting with Mercury, which is now becoming less and less observable. Let's change the time here. It is a morning object, but unfortunately, as you can see, Mercury is very, very close to the sun. You'll be lucky this month if you see it. It'll be almost completely washed out in the glow of the rising sun in the morning, and by the time the sun rises, obviously you won't be able to see it. So unfortunately, this is not the month for Mercury. But Venus, on the other hand, is still quite the prominent object all month long. Let's go back here to Venus. Bring the time back towards the evening sky. And as you can see, right after sunset, let's move this time back a little bit. Right as the sun is setting, you can see just how high Mercury is this month. It's placed very favorably for observing, and it's up there in the southwestern sky for at least a couple hours, if not 3 hours, after sunset, as it sets in the west there in Auriga. So excellent month for Venus. Moving on to Mars. Yet again, Mars is still up there in the eastern sky in between Gemini and Cancer here, and it is slowly setting. Or rather, my apologies, looking at the wrong month. Mars is coming up to opposition on the 16th. Opposition, of course, means that it's opposite in the sky from the sun. As such, Mars will be up all night long, right there in the eastern sky and towards the southern sky, and it is placed very favorably all evening long as it rises higher and higher before setting right as the sun rises. So this is the month to go out there and take a look at Mars. It's shining very bright at magnitude negative 1.47. And of course, it is still a small disk, but you get out there with a large scope and some high magnification, you might be able to see some features on the disk, perhaps the polar ice caps, and if you're lucky, you might be able to see its two little moons here, Phobos and Deimos. And of course, there is on the 13th a very stunning and unique event involving Mars, but I will get to that in just a little bit. We'll go through the rest of the planets first before hitting on the night sky events this month. So moving along to Jupiter, king of the planets. Jupiter yet again is still placed very favorably for observing. As you can see here, it's the night of the 11th at 3 in the morning, and Jupiter is still fairly high in the sky, just past opposition last month. And as you can see, again, from sunset all the way to pretty well sunrise, maybe an hour or two before. Jupiter is nice and high up there in the sky, placed right in the heart of Taurus. Here we go. Tonight, just underneath the moon. So another month for Jupiter. If you want to take a look at the transits and the occultations of its Galilean moons, as I've been saying each month, Jupiter's been putting on a show for us this winter. Go ahead and check out skyandtelescope.com, and they have a tracker that you can use to plan out the exact time and the exact position when the Galilean moons cross in front of or behind the disk of the planet, or when their shadows transit across the planet as well. And now moving on to Saturn. Saturn, unfortunately, as you can see right there, is now setting for us quite early on. One second here. Is setting for us quite early on. Let's get the hour exact here. 8 o'clock. By around 9 o'clock, Saturn will have set. It is sinking quite low in the western sky, so this will be your last opportunity for a while to go out there and see it. This month as well, for observers in the rest of the world, there are 2 lunar occultations of Saturn. Unfortunately for us, we don't get to see them from our location on Earth. Such is the way of astronomy, but nonetheless still have plenty of opportunity the first half of the month or most of the month to go out there and see it just before it sets a few hours after sunset. And for the purposes of brevity, I will just skip Uranus and Neptune and Pluto for the time being. If you want to go out there, see them, see where they're at on Stellarium, but otherwise, just to keep things moving along, I will skip those 3 for this month. So we'll move on to some night sky events which are occurring this month. Now, probably the most exciting will be on the night of the 13th. The night of the 13th. And as you can see, the moon moving down towards the horizon, towards Mars, and quite close on the night of the 13th. The 13th is Monday, so this coming Monday. So as you can see, this is 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Right there we have a complete and visible lunar occultation of the planet Mars. So the occultation begins just after 9 p.m. At 9:16 we have first contact, and last contact is 10:28 p.m. So you can see here 9:01, 9:16. Mars starts to get covered by the disk of the moon, and we continue on for just over an hour. And you can sit out there and slowly watch the moon come down. And at 10:28, you will see Mars begin to poke out the other side of the moon. So definitely keep that in your calendar for this coming Monday, the 13th. And that's something you don't want to miss, because whether you have a telescope or binoculars, a refractor, a reflector, this is easily visible in any piece of equipment that you have. And you'll even be able to notice it with the naked eye. So definitely something to mark down and get out there. Hopefully it's clear. And if it is, I look forward to quite a few nice pictures of it sent in to me for next month. Now Venus also brings us a couple nice conjunctions this month. Let's zoom out here. So one unfortunately already passed on the 3rd. The next one will be coming up on the nights of the 17th and the 18th. And you can see Venus and Saturn here come within 2 degrees of each other in the evening sky over in Aquarius. So this will make a very nice pairing on those 2 nights, the 17th and the 18th, just after sunset, looking towards the western sky. And that's a great opportunity for our astrophotographers to see what detail you can pick out, see how you can work with your technique, maybe capture a wide field image, maybe capture something a little bit closer of the 2 of them sitting here in Aquarius. And then at the end of the month, on the night of the 1st, right there you can see as well, we have a nice little crescent moon that passes again within 2 degrees of Venus around the same time, 7 p.m. here, 7:30, 6:30, just after sunset. So again, 2 nice conjunctions there of Venus this month on the 17th and 18th, and then on the 1st, so mark those down in your calendars as well. Now, speaking of the moon, in early February, we have 2 events to look forward to before our next meeting involving the moon. The first will be on the night of the 6th. So let's go to the 6th. And here you can see, would be the night of the 5th. The night of the 5th. And here we have the moon, and yet again, crossing paths with M45, the Pleiades. So this is set at 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. Unfortunately for us, we won't get to see another transit of the moon across M45, but nonetheless, until the moon sets around 1:30 in the morning, you can slowly watch it close in on the Pleiades, and just before it sets, it'll get nice and close and make for a great photo opportunity here, unlike last month when it actually passed across the Pleiades. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see that, but it gets close enough that it's sure to make a great view, especially on a nice wide field pair of binoculars. And then on the night of the 9th as well, let's back it up a little bit here. On the night of the 9th, we can see the moon dancing around Mars here. Unfortunately, we do not get to see the occultation that occurs on this night. Would be nice to be able to see 2 within a month of each other. But nonetheless, just after the sun sets, you can see here, Mars and the moon have a nice, very close conjunction right there in the heart of Gemini. So again, on this night, from different areas of the world, they can actually see the moon yet again pass in front of Mars. We don't get to see that, but they still get within a couple degrees of each other there in the high eastern sky. So as for the deep sky objects this month, I am going to focus again on what I did in the EH article for January. Of course, I'm going to leave all of the objects here in the winter constellations in Orion, and Canis Minor and Canis Major for next month most likely, but I would like to focus again on some of the very lesser known areas of the night sky that we have here between Pegasus and Canis Major coming underneath Orion. So this is an area of the night sky that is quite often overlooked by amateur astronomers because there's not much there that's easily visible, but if you have the proper equipment and the proper attitude and desire to go out and see, you can certainly see a lot in this area of the sky. We have the constellations Pisces, Aries is up here, underneath that Cetus, Fornax, Eridanus, which is the river, Columba, Lepus, and Calum down here. Very, very not well-known constellations and not an area of the sky where people spend much time. But nonetheless, there are a host of different galaxies and different nebulas and different clusters in this area of the sky. Unfortunately, as I mentioned in my EH article, you will certainly need a bit of a larger scope to see many of these objects, and you'll probably need a good amount of patience and a good amount of luck because obviously, especially down here in Eridanus and Fornax, it gets very, very close to the horizon and it does not rise very high above the horizon. So let's select here Dalem, which is Alpha Fornacis. As you can see, right now we're on February 9th. We'll go back to beginning of February. And this is set at 7:30 p.m., 8:30, 9:30, 10:30. It's already set. So it does not get higher than about 10 degrees or so above the horizon all night long. and there's only a short viewing opportunity if you want to go out and see any of these objects. Like I said, the challenge object in my article was Fornax A, NGC 1316, which is, well, look at that, right now, just skirting the horizon. Fornax A, of course, is a very nice galaxy, very easy to find galaxy. It's not too hard to find. If you can find the two stars in Fornax, it forms almost a isosceles triangle here. And it is a fairly bright galaxy as well, at magnitude 8.53, but the challenge is not so much in seeing the object because of what it is, but rather seeing the object where it is. So low to the horizon here, your best bet, as I mentioned, would probably be to go down towards the north shore of Lake Erie, looking out over the lake to one of those dimly lit areas across in Pennsylvania or New York State, and praying that you have a nice, still, transparent, clear sky, and you can train your scope down there just above the southern horizon, just after sunset, and see if you can pick that galaxy out of the twilight there. Very difficult to do. Same with most of the objects that you'll find in this area of the sky. We have quite a few planetary nebulas. There's M77 over up in Cetus here, Cleopatra's Eye, the Robin's Egg Nebula, the Skull Nebula, and there are plenty of other deep sky objects which you can find. Give me 1 second here. We'll turn them on. Lots of galaxies in this area of the sky. Unfortunately, most of them are like this: NGC 1300, magnitude 10.42, Eridanus A group, magnitude 9.67. The Eye of God galaxy, I'll be honest, that's one I've never heard of before, but that looks very pretty, doesn't it, right there? NGC 1232, magnitude 9.87. Interesting name, and that is a lovely photograph Stellarium's put on there. So I think I'm going to add that to my observing list for the next month. High enough that you might be able to pick that out of the sky. So let's see if any of our intrepid observers out there can go ahead and find for me for the next month the Eye of God galaxy, NGC 1232, right there in Eridanus. It looks like it's a challenging object to even try and get to star hopping. Obviously with GoTo you can get there no problem. But see if you can pick that out of the twilight glow, and see if you can pick that out of the swampy horizon sky, and let me know if you have. I certainly think I'm going to try that this month. Otherwise, like I said, plenty of different galaxies all around, and for some reason quite a few notable planetary nebula. Like I mentioned in the article, Cleopatra's Eye, NGC 1535. M79 is down here in Lepus. I've talked about M79 before. And there are just a smattering here of various NGC objects, most of them fairly dim, but certainly if you find yourself lucky enough with a clear night and some nice clear transparent skies all the way down to the horizon, you might be able to pick out more than a few of these different NGC and IC objects in Cetus, Eridanus, and Fornax. It certainly presents a challenge for even experienced astronomers because, as we know, the closer you view to the horizon, the more atmosphere you're looking through, the swampier it gets, the worse the seeing is. Objects begin to start flickering and shimmering, and depending on how bad it is, you might not even be able to see them at all. So it does involve a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill in order to know when and where to look. So that will be your area of interest for January of 2025. Of course, next month I will get back to the objects and areas of the sky here in Winter Milky Way, which we all love to look at and we all love to talk about. But for now, try and get some of those lesser known objects and put your skills to use. Get your go-to humming. And let me know what else you find in this area, because there is a wealth of different objects that you can go on Stellarium or use one of your sky atlases to try and find. So, that is your sky this month for January of 2025. Thank you so much. And before I let you go, we'll head back to the PowerPoint here. I would also like to ask of you if there is any feedback that you can give me regarding my Sky This Month presentations and my articles. Any feedback is appreciated. I know unfortunately I'm not able to make every single meeting. Hopefully I'm trying to make next month's meeting, so if you have anything you want to let me know, come up and talk to me. If not, you can send something to me right down here at observing@amateurastronomy.org. But I would like to know, what is it that you like about my Sky This Month presentations, or if there's anything that you particularly don't like about them. Whether you enjoy the current format that I have, where I go from the night sky with the naked eye and the constellations, to the phases of the moon, to where the planets are, to some night sky events, and then deep sky objects. And is there anything specific you want me to cover? Is there a certain topic like galaxies that you want me to spend some more time on, or binocular observing, or what you can see with this size scope, or what you can see with that size scope, or maybe 1 month talk about beginner objects in this month's night sky, or really, really difficult expert objects, or astrophotography objects. And in general, is there anything else you think I should focus some more on? Anything I should focus less on? And I'd also like to know whether you actually go out and try to find each month's challenge objects. I'm very curious if anybody managed to see all of the 12 sights of Christmas that I showed to you at the Christmas social meeting. And as well, the HAA used to have the Rising Star Award program. We still technically do, it just hasn't been very active in the last little while. But if any award programs or observing programs pique somebody's interest, if that's something that enough people would be interested in, perhaps we could get that started up again. Again, if there's anything that you have to give me in terms of feedback, anything you want me to talk about more, anything that you specifically really, really want me to talk about and give some insight onto, I'll be more than happy to hear what you have to say. So pull me aside in the meeting or email me here at the email listed right there. And I look forward to hearing back from you. So Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for listening to my Sky this month. And I hopefully will see you all at the next meeting in February. Thank you so much.